Hello everybody and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. Today we are on Geko Isle. I think we've only seen this on the channel a very few amount of times. And today our contestants are Purpleheart, fresh off of his absolute devastation on X Factor, playing against Censor. Now straight off the bat you can see this start position gives a big difference in that players heavily invest into titles and then go into their factory and then start expanding. And we haven't looked at the map before, so let's have a quick look while they finish things off. So this is a central part of the map, and we have in the corner here more metal extractors opportunities, at least, with a hill that makes it pretty easy to defend. This is the left hand corner. Moving over to the opposite side of the map here, you have the exact same thing, but just different order of the metal points. There is quite a few metal points on the map as we swing around the right-hand side. Lots of high terrain areas as well. There is a geo there in the center, and then another one just a bit further back. And you can see that quite a lot of flat terrain. So we're expecting players to mainly play vehicles, and we can see that Censor here building more titles as they build into vehicles themselves, and plenty of metal points to be had. Now there are a lot of hills and a lot of cliffs as we get right down low that will block the radar, and we can see here that, remember, radar is line of sight, so if you can't see something right now where there's a radar going to be, you ain't going to see it. So radar is going to be difficult to control. Now, both, well, not both. Purpleheart has decided to go bots, and with that bot, he's gone a res spot here to try and get some of the early metal on the map, as well as some of the energy that can be gotten in the cactuses just here. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the map. Fighting over the high ground will give you a good strong defense, as well as getting those few rocks that are around the map. As the scouts come in for Censor, let's switch over to the normal camera and get on with the match. So straight into the normal camera here, these scouts are trying to make their way round. Purpleheart does have a few grunts here in an attempt to try and stop things from happening, catching constructors out. There is a res bot. There is quite a lot of metal to be had. We can see 175, 175, same again. Every single little section has 175. So it's not a drastic amount of metal, but in the grand scheme of things, it won't really add up to too much, but we are talking, you know, 3 grunts there for free. So definitely worth grabbing. Now, Censor has prioritized getting scouts out. Due to the size of the map, it is quite a large map. Getting scouts up pretty early on and getting as much terrain covered as possible is quite important. We did see recently a game where a player was able to completely dominate their opponent just using scouts right off the bat, completely shutting them down. Now, that doesn't seem to be the case for Censor today, but still kind of slowing down Purpleheart at least a little bit. Now, both of these players are very similar OS, 43 and 44, so it's all pretty much to fight for here. Censor's slight poor control of the incisor does get him caught out there, and does lose that incisor. Now, the scouts will make it difficult because of their mobility. Purpleheart does have to move a lot around. Both players have positioned themselves in the center. Purpleheart, though, investing very, very heavily into tidal. Tidal strength is 25, as you can see. So a lot of energy can be produced by this. But without investing into amphibious constructors, as we see here from Censor, Purpleheart doesn't really have a way of getting them. Purpleheart does manage to kill one of Censor's expanding constructors, though, and that will delay Censor a considerable amount. Not only that, but getting the metal extractor there and the triple, and being very sneaky and hiding the grunt down the cliff so that it can come up at a later date. Some scouts did manage to make it through for Senzel though, and will be able to... Yep, we'll get both of those metal extractors. We'll not get any more than that as grunts are there ready to defend. At the same time, right in the front line here, Purpleheart has a lot of grunts pushed right up to Senzel's front line here. This is like very close to Senzel's base to be pushed that far up. Senzel is on this right hand side here building the metal points with his commander and getting a radar up. That's going to give him pretty good vision. So far, Senzel has expanded quicker than Purpleheart, and that is due to the fact that Senzel is using the commander's build power, and has a lot more constructors expanding. We even have one in the center here, slowly pushing forward. Now, as we've mentioned many times before, incisors trade very, very well into grunts. Incisors obviously cost about 3 times as much as a grunt, so they should do. But all of the grunts there, pretty much of Purpleheart getting destroyed, and only a single incisor getting killed. Meanwhile, though, on the far left-hand side, well out of the radar range of Senzel, a huge quantity of grunts, 15, already sat, ready to go. He's not pushing forward with them, though, at least not yet. But he does have some openings on the right-hand side he does need to be wary of. There is an LLT here that will at least keep these metal extractors safe. This one will get killed. Meanwhile, Purpleheart's still struggling against these incisors. It wouldn't surprise me... he's already done it. I was about to say it wouldn't surprise me if we see Purpleheart transition over to vehicles, seeing how flat this map is. And he already has done it before I even had a look. And he is just losing units left and right here. These grunts unable to really get anything. Saying that though, in the back line now, Senzel may be about to lose a constructor, 2 metal extractors, and for some reason 2 radars right on top of each other. If these were being microed a bit more, he'd definitely get a bit more value, as they do get the constructor. There is a constructor still here. These grunts should hopefully pick that up. Now, whilst Purpleheart is pushing a lot into this corner, as we can see on the map here, a group of incisors are barreling their way down the center of the map towards Purpleheart's base. But Purpleheart's own incisors have now made their way onto the field. Some LLTs around as well. It'll be interesting to see where these guys are planning to go. They are running into LLTs still, so... Senzel, currently 1.8k of metal excess though. Huge amount of metal wasted. And that number is just going up. Massive waste. Now up to 2k metal excess from Senzel. Bear in mind, you know, a Tech 2 factory is just over 2k. In essence, in the metal that he's wasted so far, he is already wasted that much metal. Apology for the Steam notification noise if you did hear that. Purpleheart's commander, though, rather than pushing on the front line like Senzel's, is just sat in the back line here building up energy. This map does give way to basically having your entire energy production in the water. And without a bombing run, this is going to make your energy production very safe. And you can see here that Purpleheart with no energy production on land. Same here for Senzel. And it's just going very well. So far, Senzel now struggling. 3.2k's worth of metal lost just to the ether. And radar He does have radar, yet there was a resbot just here. Senzo seems to be losing control a bit. This entire left-hand side is well and truly in Purpleheart's control here. He's managed to push up and clear all of this. Senzo doesn't really have the means to deal with it. He also never has taken back this corner. It's been dead for a while. It does look like some units did try and get back up there and was killed by that single grunt again. And Purpleheart just in a very, very strong position here. Oh, and Senzo pushes in, getting some good damage, and manages to take out the right-hand side army. Still not really producing enough energy here to use all of this metal. Either that or they just need more build power. Really sitting right on the edge, on the precipice of overflowing. And we can see now that Purpleheart has transitioned over to full-on tanks, brutes here. Pack a bit more punch and are very useful at breaking through front lines, especially with just single LLTs here. Incisors unable to even get these expanding constructors as they roam into the path of some LLTs. And realistically, they may be able to get this metal extractor, but now that they've stopped moving, that isn't going to be the case. We see Purpleheart did attempt a bit of a raid here, manages to take out 2 metal extractors and an LLT, but then dies just shortly after. Senzo is trying to secure the center of the map, which, to be fair on him, is a decent choice. If you secure the center, you can move out easier to the sides. Senzo does have, at the moment at least, relatively good control of the right-hand side of the map. Left-hand side is currently his weakest angle, but again, going into metal overflow, now up to 3.8k metal. And as we just briefly select this, you can see for 2,800 metal, you could go a Tech 2 vehicle. And for 2,900 metal, you could have gone Tech 2 bots. So with now 4,000 metal overflown, Senzo could have well and truly gone to Tech 2. Not that he would have had the energy to support it at the time, but basically he's lost a whole Tech 2 factory's worth of metal and more by just disappearing into the ether. So when you look at the fact that metal produced is 27k or 28k to 30, you've got to bear in mind that realistically it's, you know, 4k less on that 28k, so 24k to 31k of actual metal being used by the player. So Purpleheart is definitely ahead. Army value is very much in his standing. Senzo's comm has not really been able to do much on the front. He has built up a lot of LLTs, but by this time that brutes are starting to roll out, they're not really going to contribute too much to defense. And he's also really not building up the metal extractors. I mean, the reason he's not building up the metal extractors is because he's overflowing metal. But there's no point. Now, as we look in the base here, Purpleheart has transitioned to Tech 2. Purpleheart with a decent amount of metal sat here in the bank. By eating the Tech 1 lab and keeping the bot lab here for resbots, he should be able to get these Tech 2 metal extractors up very quickly. Commander still in the water, slowly building more and more titles. We can see that so far, I'm trying to only see these ones. He's generating 1,100 energy purely from tidal. And he does have one geo, which Senzo hasn't actually built his geo. Not overflowing yet, but shurikens now starting to make their way out. How much will the shurikens impact? We're about to find out, as Senzo seems to be making a big attempt to push through the center and on the right hand side here, as this army is well and truly enough to break through on the right hand side. Purpleheart is now having to split his forces, sending some tanks over to the side. A pounder is there to try and slow down any forces by providing impulse damage. This has opened up a bit of a hole in Purpleheart's defenses, though, as there is another group of tanks just behind this force, slightly to the left, which is now going through an open hole. And as we switch over to these guys, you can see the tanks that were in the center have now moved over to the right to try and stop this. But then at the same time, the forces of Sensor that was in the middle have now made their way through that hole as well. Pressure being applied on pretty much every avenue of Purpleheart's defensive line. Tech 2 Tigers have made their way onto the field. They're very nice looking new model. And it seems that Sensor has no further plans for these tanks in the bottom corner, and they will get annihilated by the Tiger, getting no more future value. Meanwhile, in the center, Shurikens have started to make their appearance, but it's a bit too late, as Sensor did some good plays there, but was unable to really do much damage to the army of Purpleheart, leaving Purpleheart's army value up 50% on his opponent. A single tank has made a bit of a breakthrough here, killing a couple of metal extractors, but with Tech 2 now very well and truly up and running for Purpleheart, we're going to start seeing more Tigers, more economy, fighters going up as well. And Sensor is going to have to get there himself. He has now wasted 5.3k metal. And bear in mind, these players are the exact same OS. You would think they would be the exact same skill level, but no. Clearly, Purpleheart is made for a higher tier. No Tech 2 yet coming out from Sensor. 2 Amphib guys just sat there, not building up more energy. He desperately needs more energy. He's got so much metal. So now overflowed 6.2k of metal. And he's behind on metal produced. He cannot afford to be losing metal like this. And with the amount of metal here that Sensor has wasted, it's hard to see him being able to win here. But who knows? All it takes is, I don't know, like a good bombing run or something like that. Sensor has done significant economy damage on this right-hand side of the map. I've not looked at it yet, as well as the Geo he's just gotten. But he has lost most of his forces whilst leaving all of the reclaim, obviously, for Purpleheart to grab. You see that pretty much all of the metal extractors back here have been completely taken out, as well as here. Kind of setting him back quite a bit. Purpleheart has been pushed back to his starting section, whereas Sensor has pretty much everything capped on his side. So, in theory, Sensor should be in a better position. However, Sensor is still overflowing metal. And there's no point getting Resbots over here to eat all this up, because we've got no use for it. 8.4k metal. Now overflown. And he's just struggled for energy this entire game. Now finally deciding to invest some of that metal that is overflowing into energy, which he should have done ages ago. And who knows, this could have been a completely different game if that was the case. But with such a large army of Tech 2, I think it's pretty much the end of Sensor here. He's trying to take some more forces out. He does okay on that trade, but as soon as this Banisher gets in range, boom, there goes another tank. Using the very edge of the... Oh, I was about to say he's using the very edge of the map there, but actually turns around. Sensor's comm in a bit of a iffy spot here. Don't quite know why he's so far forward. No, just because you've got Tech 2 economy and building Tech 2 tanks doesn't necessarily mean you've got it. You can win with numbers, and with enough brutes, you can cause significant damage. And with this map being so large, just being able to apply pressure in lots of different places can work out. We can see, though, Purpleheart sending in a massive amount of pawns at the same time. The Centaur's comm gets spotted at 38%. Goes for the D-gun.
Commander has fallen.
And the Banisher just basically pops the commander in, like, the missiles that it fires. Well, Centaur in the end wasting 11k metal, being behind by 40k to begin with, and then wasting 11 means that Purpleheart had an extra 50k of metal left ahead of his opponent. So yeah, it was pretty much guaranteed a Purpleheart win. Well, Purpleheart marches on. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time.